A true blue cultivation journey with a protagonist that just will not quit. Let's talk about Unintended Cultivator. Hey there everybody, welcome back to Fantasy Inc. My name is Wyeth, and today we are talking about Unintended Cultivator by Eric Dontigney. Our main protagonist, jumping into a semi-spoiler-free review, is known as Lucen, an orphan boy in a small, really unknown village. One day, a very high-level cultivator is walking through the town, and he is able to spot Lucen, or really spot his absence. And this allows his future mentor to really gain some curiosity in his abilities, or the lack of them. He is a completely blank canvas, and the mentor, which is known as Master Feng, if I'm remembering correctly, sees the potential that he has to become one of the best cultivators out there. My goodness, you could not ask for a better mentor. I'm not saying he's the warmest guy out there, he's definitely not, but he is one of the most knowledgeable, at least when it comes to the sword, or in this case, the gen. I believe that's just a type of sword, but who's to say? After Lucen is picked up by Master Feng, he's taken to an old friend of his new master's, and he finds out that he's not just one of the most powerful cultivators in the area. And this is where Uncle Ko and Auntie Saihong come on in to really widen his breadth of cultivator knowledge, whether that be foundation flags or alchemy, and you could not ask for a better schooling when it comes to cultivation like this kid is going to get. Now, he's able to eventually in the series go out on his own journey and make his own name, and each book only gets better and better and better, jumping into the first pro for this series, and that is going to be the world building in itself. The main character kind of sticks in the same area for the first book, but that does not stop him from traveling and going pretty dang far in the later books. And the actual cultivation aspects is very much built into the society of this world, where you have mortals and you have cultivators, and they try their best to kind of almost ignore each other. Oftentimes there's referred to as mortal problems and cultivator problems because they have such different mindsets. And you're able to really distinguish this difference because our main protagonist grew up a mortal, and now he's not thinking like them anymore, at least in the later books. He's thinking like a cultivator. And even though these mortal sensibilities might cloud his viewpoints sometimes, he now knows that he's different, and he's never going to be able to go back to what is much simpler times. And this, mixed with the world building in itself, really is able to show the dichotomy of how two different cultures can overlap and really bring together the series as a whole. Now, for the one con of the series, in my opinion, I think book 5 was a little underwhelming. Up until this point, each book had built upon itself and gotten better and better and better. And I think this book was very much utilized as a stopgap to kind of reframe how the main protagonist thinks. I know this is a series review, but for those of you who have not read the series, I'm not going to get into too much detail there because that would be a big spoiler. But like in other series where you kind of need to reset the stage almost, I think that this is a good example of that happening. But don't worry, I'm still very much looking forward to book 6 and finding out what is next in store for Lucen. Now for the second and last pro for this series, Sen's character growth is very interesting because it's not all growth. There's often times that he's dealing with problems and he's in situations where he does not make the right choice. And in those situations, he's able to look back on his actions where he's made mistakes and it's affected him negatively. So it's not all character growth, but I think this is much more honest to the journey of protagonists than always just improving. Whether or not he's always improving in his cultivation, he is not always going to be the best version of himself. He's going to have pitfalls like in every hero's journey, but he's not able to shrug them off like we see in a lot of different stories here. I think this is interesting because in my last video, I acknowledged the pro of a different character who really didn't feel much at all, our main character from Industrial Strength Magic, and in this case, I'm going to the exact opposite end of the spectrum here and it's still a pro. And that is because if the author is able to execute it correctly, then you're able to really engage in the journey of the main protagonist, the pitfalls and the triumphs as well. So I have to admit, there is a lot of potential for this main character to be one of my favorite of all times, especially if it is still continuing to be a realistic hero's journey and not just a fluffed up power piece. I am totally in love with this series. As y'all know, there are 5 books out through audio and I believe 6 books out in total right now. I don't imagine it ended in book 6, so I hope we still have so much more in the series to devour and enjoy. So if you've not picked this one up, you need to if you do appreciate cultivation, and this is cultivation at its finest, so you will not be disappointed there. Now we're gonna go ahead, jump over to the deep dive, talking about the spoilers up and including book 5. So this is where you say sayonara if you haven't picked this one up yet, but with all that said, I do appreciate everyone's time and I hope everyone keeps reading. Now, there's been signs throughout the series as a whole that someone is definitely behind the scenes and pulling strings when it comes to Sen's fate. He's had too many interesting encounters that this is not all coincidence, and he knows it. He is under the impression that whether in a past life he pissed off a god or he is the heartthrob of a goddess, who's to say, but all these are leading to someone trying to make him the most powerful cultivator he can be when he truly does ascend. Or at least that is the assumption from the audience, or my assumption right here and now. And you couldn't pick a better protagonist to do this for. Yes, he had the innate talent of hiding when he was a young man, but having put him in that small town when Master Feng was walking through, so close to Uncle Ko and Auntie Sai Hung's mountain, they just put him in the exact place he needed to be in to actually get on the path of cultivation and be mentored by 3 of the most strongest people still around who have not ascended off this plane. And my goodness, the kid's potential is immaculate. He obviously has one heck of a work ethic, being able to train from dawn till dusk. But at the same time, this potential is just that, it's potential. And he is putting the work in to become the best he can ever be, while also being tempered by those he sees as his betters, and in a lot of areas, they still are, even after his 5-book journey. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure he could put up a decent fight against a nascent soul cultivator like he actually did in book 3 or book 4, but that was through trickery. Now though, he has a chance of holding his own. Maybe not against his own masters and mentors, but still, there's a lot of potential there. And in book 5, let's go ahead, rip the band-aid off. It was slow. That was my main problem with it. I was trying to be nice about it, and still, not to say it was a bad book at all, but we finally get to the person who has the 5-fold body cultivation method that he needs to survive. And it very much feels like a repeat of the first book, and not exactly in a good way, where the actual nascent soul cultivator that wants to train him to see why everyone else is making such a big deal out of him doesn't exactly know what to train him on. So a lot of it is just him kind of dealing with these previous clustered emotions that he is very much struggling with, and kind of just waiting around for orders almost. Very much this was a reset in his journey, so hopefully when we jump into book 6 and we get that meeting between him and the turtle bow, where he can find out why the turtle put him on this path, we'll get more answers, and hopefully we'll be jumping back into the action, though he does have to go and finish out his tenure for training with the nascent soul cultivator that he promised 5 years to. So we'll see what happens there. I do hope that, we get some more traveling and we get some more action and adventure out of Lu Sen and possibly the new mentor he has on his way, but we will find out there's so much potential when it comes to Lucen's journey now, especially that he is at rock bottom emotionally. He's dealing with a lot of cultivator problems as a mortal. He's taking on those mortal sensibilities still, where he's seeing all this death and misery around him that goes on in his wake, and he cannot do anything to escape his fate. And that is why I do think that there are some strings being pulled when it comes to Lucen, though who's ever pulling the strings is going to find out that he's not going to play ball when they finally make him into the tool that they hope to make him into. I'm wondering what's going to happen when it comes to Lucen and his love interests. There are certainly quite a few cultivators out there that are smitten with him, and he is really not focused on that at all. He's just focused on getting as strong as possible to ascend. And whatever that path may be, I'm looking forward to the journey. I know for a fact this could be one of the best series out there that becomes a pillar of this genre. Even though it is a smaller genre, it has a lot of potential, and this book is certainly showing it. I give all my thanks to Mr. Eric for making such a pivotal work for this genre, and hopefully inspiring other authors out there to try something like this, but make it their own at the end of the day. So with all that said, I do appreciate everyone's time. Be sure to jump in the comments if you have read the series, or if you haven't. Don't know why you're still watching this part of the video, but I digress. And let me know your thoughts on it as a whole. I would love to chat with y'all about it, and hopefully we'll get book 6 in the near future, but who's to say? So thank y'all again. I do appreciate everyone's time, and be sure to keep reading.